with authority. Aloha!
Welcome to the most musclesome podcast in Barrie Sports. Welcome to ABC7 Sports.
With authority!
Here we are. We are in a new room. Not the ABC7 Sports department, but a studio. Imagine that.
Yeah, we'll get into the details on that coming up because this is a vast upgrade for us. 17 pods in. You know, I've been ready to say aloha to Madison Bumgarner since I think last October, but one of us has had a dramatic change of heart. Are the Giants now Casey Pratt's team of destiny? Are you trading Bum? You don't answer yet. Don't answer yet.
I can't talk yet.
Also, NFL training camps opening this week. Over under on the Raiders at 6 wins? Are you kidding me? Jimmy G or Derek Carr, more touchdown passes. We'll tell you what I have in common with Kevin Durant, and it involves a body part. Need I go any further than that? And it hurts, and it's aching.
It'll require a lot of rubbing.
And which leads me to our news story of the week. Do you need a friend? Are you looking for that special somebody? We have the website that is just right for you.
This could get dangerous quickly.
And it won't cost that much, Casey. Come on, you can afford
right.
$29.95 a month. And we mentioned the new studio because, well, if you're on YouTube, this really makes much more sense. If you're on iTunes, just play along for the next 15 or 20 seconds.
Just enjoy the sweet acoustics.
Yes. It actually,
yeah.
I mean, we have soundproofing up here. We have a fake brick wall. We've got a lot of stuff. But this is Pod 17, and the new studio reminded me of a movie that I'm sure you have not seen. I've seen like every Steven Seagal movie, which says a lot about me. Perhaps too much.
Yeah.
But he did a great movie with Tommy Lee Jones. It was called Under Siege.
That was like the only one I have seen.
Did you see it?
Yeah,
Okay.
I have seen that one.
So there's basically Tommy Lee Jones is this maniac that commandeers a nuclear sub, and he wants the missiles. He's going to blow up the world or whatever he's going to do. And Steven Seagal is a former Navy SEAL who is now the chef. He's the cook on the sub, and he's got to thwart the bad guys. And the commander says to Steven Seagal, because don't do anything because we don't want World War III breaking out. But he says, if I can't control you, I might as well support you. And I think that was management's thought when they gave us the room, because we're not stopping the podcast. We're going to keep going, so they gave us the room.
You know what I remember about that movie?
I do know what you remember about the movie. The girl that popped out of the cake.
No! There's the scene where the guy gets the knife right in the melon.
Oh, it was a great knife fight. There was a great knife fight, and that's because they fought in the kitchen, and I do remember his character's name was Casey Ryback.
Oh,
and after he kills it, that was like his arch rival, one of his like the other tough guy in the movie, and they had this great epic knife fight, and after he kills the guy, he says, "Nobody beats me in the kitchen." This has turned into a Steven Seagal.
Which leads us to sort of hot stove activity. The trade deadline, maybe?
That was a good save.
Sort of?
That was an excellent save.
I don't know. I'm just trying to pull us back in. We like to go off the rails on this show. It's quite enjoyable, actually, to do so. But baseball, I'm telling you, last week we talked Giants, buyers or sellers.
Yeah.
One good run does not a season make. But I was looking at it, and I was almost like half talking myself into not selling while I was trying to talk about why they should be selling. Right. We both agreed they should be selling.
Yes.
And I think we might have both changed our minds, which doesn't make for very compelling content, but I just don't know how they sell now.
It's really hard. It's really hard because they've been on this fantastic roll, and even though as we tape, they lost to the Cubs, but they still took 2 out of 3 from a first-place team. It's a whole different squad, but best record in the majors, 16-4 in July, 10-2 in extras. They're winning a whole bunch of one-run games. So it comes down to Will Smith, I think, is a separate category from Madison Bumgarner because they have other guys who could potentially close.
Yeah, you could do Dyson.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to have to do Melanson, but that's what you brought him there to do.
No,
you wouldn't want to. But
no, we're not doing that.
I'm just saying he has been a closer.
Moranta's
got
the closer
some heat.
of the future.
Yeah.
They've got some guys who throw hard. But I ask you right now, we're a week out from the trade deadline. Are you trading Madison Bumgarner, yay or nay?
I'm going to go with no. And I just don't see how you can do it anymore. They're so close. They're so in it right now. I think it's probably in their best interest to build for their future and not go all in this year, because there are teams that are way ahead of them. There are teams that are going to be buyers. I think by the Giants' standard, what they should do right now is stand pat. Don't buy. Don't mortgage your future any further, but also don't sell. Just let these guys do what they deserve to do now that they've put themselves in this position. And the thing about Madison Bumgarner to me that is interesting is, and I guess this is a separate argument we could have, but if you intended to keep him, then why haven't they already offered to keep him? Why haven't they already extended him? Why haven't they already tried harder to re-sign him? So, I mean, that's the one thing to me that, like, if you were going to keep him, you should pay him and you should keep him long term. Otherwise, you should cut bait. But
I think the answer to that is simple, because when Farhan Zaidi took over, this was a teardown.
It was.
This was a complete rebuild. The last thing you were going to do is lock yourself into a guy who you don't really know what he's got. I mean, the velocity was down last year. There's all these questions. And are you ready to commit $25 to $30 million a year? And that's what an ace costs these days.
Yeah.
So $125 to $150 million for a guy you're not really sure of.
But you're hypocritical in that if you're far on, because you guys spent all off season trying to get Bryce Harper for $300 million.
Well, that,
like, what sense does that make?
That made
if you could get Mad Bum for half that, I'd take Mad Bum over Harper any day.
In retrospect, that really made no sense.
It just was,
now.
Yeah, it's completely
unless
pointless.
You're just trying to sell tickets to fill up a ballpark that used to sell out regularly, even though the definition of a ballpark is a little bit shaky with the Giants sometimes. Now, you know, the sellout streak long gone, all that, because they've been bad for too many years in a row. But I think if you were looking to fill seats, maybe that would have been an attraction to try to keep the park full. So I'm with, at this point, you're tanking your seat, the energy, and you were there last night.
Yeah, I was there last night for what could have been Madison Bumgarner's last start. But it won't be.
The energy in the park now, the energy with the team is totally different than what we've seen from the Giants the past couple of years. And so they clearly believe now. I think if you pull the plug and you sell off Bumgarner, here's the thing. The Giants, they would have made this deal a long time ago if they were getting back the prospect or prospects that they could project as, okay, this guy is in AAA right now. He is going to be my starting left fielder for the next 5 years, let's say. A power hitter, all the things that they've lacked. But clearly they're not getting those offers. And so you're not getting a bona fide major leaguer. You're not going to trade. It makes no sense to trade him for a single A, double A prospect.
Yeah.
Because at that point, you're really trading for suspects.
And the thing is with Madison Bumgarner, I mean, I felt like they should have rebuilt earlier. I don't think they should have kept trying the way that they did. But on the other hand, I think his value was probably lower than it ever had been last year and even the year prior. I mean, not necessarily things that had much to do with his pitching, but the dirt bike incident. Then he got hit by the comebacker in spring training. His velocity was down. So I think there was a lot of questions about Madison Bumgarner and could he still be that horse coming into this season. I think he's answered all those questions, though, now. So maybe his value is higher, but if you're acquiring him now, you're only getting him as a short-term rental. So maybe you're not getting exactly what you want. And, I mean, the thing is, there was a report today, unnamed veterans in the Giants clubhouse saying that if they trade Madison Bumgarner, it's just complete disrespect and disarray in here.
Well, I think you'd have mutiny.
Yeah,
I mean, everybody would be freaking out because you're essentially pulling the plug on the rest of this season.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just say the Giants remain in contention all the way through the rest of the season. They're right there, and as we speak, they're 2.5 out of the second wild card. They still have teams to jump. One of them is the Phillies. They'll play them upcoming here. But who would you trot out in game one of a wild card scenario?
Other than Mad Bum?
Jeff Samardzija at this point? Does that make you feel good? Tyler Beatty?
No.
I mean, you don't have, unless you're anticipating the miraculous return of Johnny Cueto, who has begun throwing, by the way.
I think he could be back by then.
But are you going to put that on a dude's shoulders coming back from surgery, and he hasn't pitched most of the year?
But on the other hand, if you do trade Mad Bum, you're not looking at a wild card scenario anymore.
Well, I know, but you're basically telling all these guys
it's over.
Yeah,
that's
we're
exactly
done.
what you're saying.
We packed it in. We're just packing it in, and maybe if you could still compete, and hopefully, Connor Menez will give us what we're looking for, and just well, never mind. I think some of this may end up being fool's gold. I mean, 2 months from now, we may be thinking, oh, they had a chance to restock, and they didn't do it, and they rolled the dice, and they didn't make the playoffs, and now we still have another Madison Bumgarner decision, and we didn't make it.
But if you let him go in the offseason, you give him the qualifying offer, you get the supplemental first-round picks, so at least you get something for the guy. It's not ideal, but you get something.
I wouldn't be crazy about paying him $150 million over 5 years, but when you look at him now,
I mean, market value is probably that easy.
I know, but would he stay for $25 million a year for $100 million over 4? I don't know. Maybe that's a slap in the face.
Yeah.
When you look at what guys like, Zach Greinke are making, bona fide aces. I don't know. That's a decision that they can kick the can down the road in 2 months. The other thing that really has not been talked about much is you used to be able to make deals past the quote-unquote trade deadline.
Yeah, exactly.
This now puts a gun to everybody's head because they got rid of that non-waiver deadline where you could sneak guys in.
Which was extremely confusing for everybody.
It made no sense.
It didn't.
But it did allow for flexibility where you could sneak a high-priced guy through. Now, Bumgarner would never get through because
he'd get blocked.
Any contender would want to pick him up because his salary is relatively low. I think he's like $9 million this year. So I think we're both on the keep Mad Bum. And I spent months arguing with Mindy Bach about this to the point where it was like, I can't talk to you anymore. Because she was you got to keep. And I thought, Giants are terrible. And then this whole run since the start of June. But I did a little bit of diving into the numbers here. And I want to just show, because Farhan Zaidi was kind of an unknown to all of us outside of the name. You knew him from the A's organization way back, and then the Dodgers. But we didn't watch him on a day-to-day basis to see what he was up to. And he's got this churn and burn thing going. He's just mixing it up. So opening day, here was the Giants outfield. The infamous Connor Joe, Michael Reed, Gerardo Parra, Yangervis Solarte, and Steven Duggar.
Okay.
Duggar's still on the team, but he's been hurt.
Yeah.
All right. What have they picked up off the scrap heap? What has Farhan done?
Are you trying to get me to chant Dick?
No. No, well, you can.
I will not do this.
You can if you want. It's a podcast. It can be edited. But Mike Yastrzemski, who was a 28-year-old career minor leaguer, released by one of the worst teams in baseball, the Orioles didn't want him. I mean, okay. Then Alex Dickerson.
Dick.
29 years old. If you're a 29-year-old prospect in Major League Baseball, you're a suspect at that point.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I'll let you finish your list, and then I'll make a quick point about it.
He was acquired from the Padres. He had so many injuries. He had Tommy John surgery. He had hip and back problems. He had a cyst on his heel. Just this past week, he had an oblique issue. So this is a big, strong, injury-prone guy that could not be counted on. And that's why San Diego let him go within the division. Kevin Pillar, 30 years old, all right? Traded to the Giants for Alex Hansen, who's a guy I liked, Derek Law, who I thought was going to be a big-time closer, and a pitching prospect, Juan de Paula. So those three guys are your outfield. You got Tyler Austin, who was drafted by the Yankees, traded to the Twins, and then acquired by the Giants. Basically, my point is they have remade the entire outfield, and that is a huge part. Suddenly they have a few guys with power.
Yeah.
And it's made all the difference in this turnaround.
Yeah, and they rebuilt around the veteran core that had been struggling.
Right.
And the point that I was going to make with all these names I knew you were listing is that any of these guys at any point in time could have been acquired for a bag of baseballs practically.
Yes.
Nobody wanted these guys.
Right.
And if you remember the A's back when they were the island of misfit toys, I mean, that was Farhan.
Right.
And you're seeing it again with the Giants. Obviously, Billy Beane got most of the credit for that, but Farhan played a role in that too. And so what you're seeing is he's going to keep bringing in guys till he sees what sticks. That's how Stephen Vogt ended up an all-star with the A's.
Right.
Exact same way. Now he's with the Giants contributing. So, I mean, I think what Farhan has done so far has vastly exceeded all expectations. And as much as he may want to tear it down, he looks like a genius right now.
Just to get to this point.
And you might want to just roll with it. Don't sell. Don't buy. Just let these guys who played their butts off keep showing this heart, and don't take that under siege butcher knife or steak knife and just right in the heart. Don't take out the melon.
Nobody beats me in the kitchen.
Nobody beats them in the kitchen.
So
right now.
what about Will Smith? Would you keep Will
Keep
Smith?
him.
All right, so
Gotta have
we're
somebody
just gonna
close
roll.
out games.
Well,
The more
they
relievers
other
you have, the
guys.
better.
Okay.
I mean, you need somebody.
Unless
so,
you could get somebody that's amazing.
Yeah.
A prospect that you, not a guy you have questions like, this guy is going to be a bona fide big-time major league player.
I just don't think you're getting that for Will Smith.
I agree.
Like,
I
I'm
agree.
looking at the A's.
I'm not sure you're even getting it for Bumgarner
Yeah,
at
like
this
the
point.
A's, they traded Doolittle. Everyone hated it, but they traded Doolittle for Blake Trinan and Luzardo, which was like a no-brainer when you look at it in hindsight. I mean, Trinan was incredible. He struggled this year, but if you can make a deal like that with Will Smith, maybe, but I think Doolittle was far more valuable than Will Smith at the time.
All right.
Now, you want to talk deadline deals with the A's.
Yes.
The great Susan Slusser had tweeted that if the Mets make Noah Syndergaard available, the A's could be a player. But here's what I think the A's should do. The A's should acquire an ace left-handed starting pitcher. They should acquire another young flame-throwing lefty. They should acquire a 6'7" beast out of the bullpen.
I have a feeling I know where this is going.
And a very good corner outfielder. And you know how they do that?
By not making any trades.
By doing nothing. Sean Manaea could come back.
Yeah.
Jesus Luzardo, maybe. AJ Puck is very close. Manaea and Puck are both in AAA right now. And they've been doing all this without Steven Piscotty.
Right.
And all they need is Chris Davis to start hitting home runs in bunches again. He is in a bad way. But they have so much more potential. Sands making a move right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying they shouldn't deal, but this is all on the way. It's right around the corner for them.
But if you could package up the surplus of outfielders that the A's have to get Thor,
Dude,
are you kidding me?
You get Thor. Because that's what happens when you get in that wild card game. Who do you trust? I mean, is it Fiers? They didn't even trust Fiers to go last year in the wild card game.
Right.
And he's their de facto ace because of Frankie Montas being suspended.
Oh, here we go
He
again.
came out of nowhere. We could get into the Ostracine thing later, but
Yeah.
anyway.
There was actually news about that this week.
Taylor
with,
Lewin.
Yeah,
Taylor Lewin,
Yeah, who's out, and a supplement issue that we discussed in a previous pod. All right, so we're probably not making any deals on either side of the bay, is what we're saying.
Unless you can get Thor.
If you get Thor.
If you can get Thor, you get Thor.
Yeah, go do that.
You just do that.
Absolutely. All right, NFL training camps are opening this week.
Friday.
Which leads us to over-under, our favorite prop bets.
Man.
So both teams were terrible last year. Niners and Raiders 4-12.
Yeah. Very different directions, though, for those franchises, I would say. One trending down, the other trending up.
You think...
I think the Niners are trending up. I think the Raiders are trending down. I think
you think they're going to have fewer than 4 wins?
No, I just mean by the franchises are going in completely different directions. They have the same record, but they were not going in the same direction.
Oh, okay.
Jimmy G getting hurt derailed the 49ers building process. The Raiders were just a mess. So
no question. I thought you meant this year that they're trending
both,
downward
yeah.
again. But,
Yeah.
Okay, so we looked at the Raiders' schedule, and they probably have the worst schedule in the league.
It's tough.
Based on travel and, I mean,
strength of schedule.
Strength of schedule is just brutal. But if you were in Vegas, where the Raiders will be next year, the over/under, can we start with the Raiders, is 6 wins.
Yes. I'm taking the under.
I'm taking the way under.
It's got to be the under. And I wanted to go into this more optimistic because I really like Derek Carr. I think with another year under Gruden, he's going to shake a lot of the criticism. People forget Carr had a bad year, but he was playing with broken bones in his freaking back, man.
By the way, he completed.
That was 2 years ago.
Over 69% of his passes
So he went
after
from
the
that
bumpiness with Gruden early on.
Yeah, he went from that to having to adjust to Gruden in his system, which was complicated, to turning it around towards the end of the year. So I think Derek Carr takes a lot more flack than he should. That being said, you have Antonio Brown, incredible receiver. You've got Tyrell Williams, who came over, another big receiver. Right. He's very underrated. I think Derek Carr is going to have all the weapons that he needs to succeed, but I think defensively, I don't see anything I like with the Raiders, and I don't think the Raiders are going to win more than 6 games. I wanted to treat them a little bit better than this, Larry, but when we printed these schedules and we went game by game through them, I got the Raiders at 4-12. That's not a very optimistic projection. That's an under.
That would be the same. Under. That would be the same as last year.
And I hope they prove me wrong.
I was trying to give them the benefit of the doubt as well, and I think I got to 5 wins.
So we're similar.
Yeah, it's a pretty similar situation. The problem for the Raiders is essentially this. They open at home against Denver. The Broncos
on ABC.
Yeah, new quarterback situation. That's a winnable game. Then you got Kansas City.
That's an L.
Okay. Then I can't even finish the word, and you're already. Then you're at Minnesota.
That's an L.
At the Colts.
That's an L.
Then you've got the London game, and you've got to deal with Khalil Mack and the Bears.
Your so-called home game in London,
right?
Because you've sold yourself overseas, and Khalil Mack is going to be out for blood.
Yeah.
I don't want any part of that.
You think when he sees John Gruden on the other sideline, he might be slightly motivated?
I think Derek Carr is going to be terrified in that game.
So then you have a bye week.
They'll lose that week, too.
Then you come back, and you're at Green Bay and at the Texans?
That's awful.
I mean, this is painful. So coming out of that stretch, they could easily be 1-6.
They have to win week 1. I mean, that is really the most winnable game in that stretch.
Yeah, totally.
Now, mind you, NFL is very unpredictable. You go in every year thinking X team is going to be amazing, and then they turn out a bust, and bad teams often end up good. It's just hard with the parity in the league, but I don't see a very optimistic outcome for the first several weeks for the Raiders. I mean, we're looking at maybe, week 9 against the Lions?
Yeah, they can beat the Lions. They might be able to beat the Bengals at the Jets in week 12. Who knows what the Jets situation will be with Le'Veon Bell. And I do like Darnold at quarterback. They might be able to beat the Jags in week 15. But otherwise, it's going to be hard to get to 6. And I just the thing that concerns me, if I'm looking at the Raiders, and Hard Knocks is going to be really interesting.
I cannot wait for Hard Knocks.
But if they do start this poorly at 1-6,
oh boy,
Antonio Brown is not going to be a happy camper.
That is going to be an interesting thing to watch. Yes,
highly combustible is what I think the Raiders could end up being. And I'm not sure how wed they are to Derek Carr for the long run.
I agree with that. And I think it's unfortunate, too, because I think he's had a bad shake, and I think he's more talented than people give him credit for. So, yeah, I think our optimism is pretty low on the Raiders. Now, we can move on here to the 49ers win total. Vegas has them at a pretty lofty 8 wins. And if you have a healthy Jimmy G, in theory, that could be a factor. I think that the running game is vastly improved, and that'll be a really nice safety valve for Jimmy G, especially in Kyle Shanahan's offense. He wants those pass-catching backs.
Sure.
You didn't get Jerick McKinnon last year, who they had huge plans for. They added Tevin Coleman, who's a big Shanahan guy, which is awesome. You had Breida, who had a good year. I think the running game is going to be improved. These guys can all catch balls. That'll help Jimmy G get the ball out quickly. George Kittle's been amazing. I think the Niners could be pretty good.
I think they could be pretty entertaining, especially offensively. But on the defensive side of the ball, we know they keep drafting defensive linemen.
A lot of potential.
They have potential.
A lot of potential.
But I'm not sure about all of that coming together, especially on the back end.
I mean, I like Buckner. I like D Ford, what he brings.
Yeah.
Bosa could be a factor. But, yeah, I mean, it could go either way. Richard Sherman's obviously a stud, as he's fully back from the Achilles. So I looked at their schedule, though.
Well, and they open with two again, they're road games, they're East Coast road games, which makes it more challenging. And typically the West Coast teams going to the East Coast start poorly. But go ahead, go down the list.
Looking at their schedule, I won't rip through the whole thing, but when I looked at it, I had W's the first 2 weeks. They're at the Bucks and at the Bengals, but I think they could win those games.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually have them at 6-10, which is not as high as I kind of thought I would be before looking deeply into the schedule.
I agree. After those first 2 road games, you got the Steelers and you got the Browns, and then you're at the Rams. So that's a difficult stretch.
Mm-hmm.
Now they do have some winnable games. I mean, it's great that you get to play the Cardinals twice in division.
Yeah.
So
take care of Kyler.
Yeah. But again, I'm just not sure. They've got Green Bay on the schedule. They're at the Saints. You got the Falcons. You finish up with the Rams and Seahawks.
At Seattle, too, last game.
I could see them getting to 7. I have a hard time seeing them getting to 8. I would love to say 9-7 or contending at 10-6, but I'm not sure. I think it really will come down to the defense because I think, assuming everybody stays healthy on the offensive side of the ball, I think they're going to be pretty entertaining to watch.
Yeah, I have enough faith in Jimmy Garoppolo. I've been hearing people say he has to have a good year this year or this whole thing's a bust with the contract they gave him. I think that is ridiculous. Yeah. He came in, he turned them into a winner immediately, and then he hurt his knee. It was not smart for him to take that hit.
Right.
But on the other hand, if he doesn't hurt his knee, we're looking at a completely different season. So I don't think Jimmy G's been given enough time to really state his case. I would say the same with Shanahan and Lynch, too. I would agree. I think that with that injury, it's still a build. I want to see what they can keep building.
But still, in year 3, you have to see some tangible signs of success instead of what we've seen the last 2 years. We know Kyle Shanahan, can draw up plays.
So can Mike, though.
Yeah. Daddy. We'll see what they can put together. So having gone through this whole thing, what's interesting is when we looked up the numbers on over-under for quarterbacks, Jimmy G and Derek Carr had the same number.
Identical.
4,100 passing yards. Who are you taking?
That's a tough call. I think that Carr has more weapons, and he has a worse defense, so I think there's going to be a lot of garbage time. There's going to be a lot of high-scoring shootout-type games. I will actually take Derek Carr for more passing yards and potentially even more touchdowns. They're virtually the same in touchdowns. Garoppolo, the Vegas line is 25.5. Carr, it's 24.5. They're separated by 1 touchdown.
Yeah.
So with the weapons Carr has and the garbage time factor, I don't know. I might side with Carr on this one.
That's you took the argument away from
well,
me.
Now you gotta,
I thought you were going to go Jimmy G, but now no. I think they're going to be playing from behind so often that he's going to have to throw for more touchdowns.
Yeah.
So I don't know that that's necessarily going to be the case with Garoppolo because the Niners' offense should be more diversified, but we'll see. So how about this one? I found Antonio Brown over/under 9 touchdown receptions. To me, that's a no-brainer. I would take the over on that.
I think that if the Raiders are bad, and they're really bad potentially based on our projections, which we may or may not be right about, the only way you're going to keep Antonio Brown engaged and happy is feeding him the football and making sure that he's at least getting his numbers. And so they will be highly motivated to keep Antonio Brown happy. And we've been watching this guy work out all off season. This guy's a freak. I love him.
I agree. I still think that I can do the brick thing that he does.
We were in here, and Larry was like, look, I can do this. And he grabbed a book out of the little library over here, and he was trying to drop and catch the book.
I had the book down. You want me to give me a brick? I'll do it with a brick.
Maybe.
Now, the one drill that's hard is the one where he's on the Bosu.
And he had blindfolds on.
And he's got one leg. He's on one leg on a Bosu and catching balls one-handed.
Unbelievable.
I cannot do that.
So I think I'll take the over. And you know how much I love Antonio Brown, Larry Beal. Because I tried to trade him to you last season in fantasy football.
Yes.
And you wouldn't take the deal.
I wouldn't take him.
And then Antonio Brown almost single-handedly won me the whole league. I was the champion. Thank you, Antonio Brown.
It's remarkable how
You're my guy, Antonio.
How often this keeps coming up.
I will always bring this
All
up
right,
every time.
so over-under Antonio Brown, 95.5 receptions on the season.
Yeah, give me the over.
He's pretty much a 100-catch guy every year.
If you can't find a way to feed Antonio Brown, Derek Carr, you are doing your job wrong.
Okay. You know who the highest-rated receiver for the 49ers is? And I haven't seen his over-under number, but it's George Kittle.
I was thinking receivers, not tight end.
I actually think
Absolutely
Dante
George Kittle.
Pettis.
I like Pettis,
I
too.
really like Dante Pettis.
But Kittle's your guy. Kittle's going to be the guy.
No question.
Absolutely. Now, if we look at this last thing, if we talk 49ers, Raiders, which of these guys, be it Shanahan or Gruden, is under the most pressure this year?
Oh, I don't think there's any question that it's Shanahan.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, because for what we alluded to earlier, this is year 3, okay? These are more of your guys now. There's still some holdovers for sure, no question about that. But you have to show that you are capable. Remember, Shanahan was never a head coach. John Lynch was never a GM. To a certain extent, these guys are still unproven commodities, and now we're in year 3. If you go down the drain again, and whether there's injuries or not, Levi's Stadium, you're going to be able to shoot a cannon through Levi's Stadium in the third quarter and not be worried about hitting anybody.
Yeah, that's a problem. I think that you're right because the training wheels are off this year. They've had I don't want to say excuse, they have been building, so it's hard to grade them on what's happened previous seasons. They're building something. We all acknowledge that. And then you had Jimmy G get hurt, which kind of threw away last season. But this season, assuming a relatively healthy roster, if they don't perform, it's going to look really bad.
You have to at least be respectable.
Yeah.
Now, on the other
Agreed.
side, with Gruden, this is almost a free swing year for them.
Yeah.
Because everything is building towards Las Vegas. And as much as, look, I still remember the scene outside of Ricky's in San Leandro where Gruden is getting the crowd all riled up and we're all getting crazy and we're going to come back and they're going to win one in Oakland and all that. And then they're just horrible, terrible, trading away their best players, embarrassing. I've run out of adjectives. So the notion that, okay, we're back one more year in Oakland, that everything is built for Las Vegas and that stadium. And I think the stadium, actually, they've made a lot of progress because for a while it looked like that might be dicey whether they get in there by 2020. So I think regardless of how they do this year in Oakland, the enthusiasm and the energy going to Vegas is what's going to drive them for the future. So, whether they could go 4-12 again, there's still going to be a lot of buzz and excitement because of the relocation. The irony is, I believe they are still going to train each week in Alameda. Their headquarters will not be in Vegas until the following season, is my understanding. And I think that they're going to end up training here.
That would be...
That's what happened when they moved back the first time.
That would be crazy.
Yeah. Don't hold me to this.
I haven't looked into that.
Don't hold me to this, but I believe that is. But I believe that was.
That would be very odd.
Because I'm not sure if their headquarters will be finished in time for the start.
But couldn't
of
they
next
still
season.
use the facilities of UNLV or somebody?
Well, UNLV's facilities are not very good.
It's better than having to travel all over the place.
Well, it's a 1-hour
We'll
flight
see.
on
We'll
Southwest.
See. We can move on from that.
All right.
I think that Gruden, $100 million, hard knocks to start the year, but everything is geared up towards Vegas. And until they get there, I don't think he's going to be held to a crazy high standard.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about the 10-year contract. When you have a 10-year contract, you don't
10
have
years,
a lot of pressure on
$100
you.
million.
You don't have a lot of pressure.
They're not
on
looking
you.
to pay that money
No.
by firing him.
I don't think I have that money.
No. So he's safe. He's safe for now. All right. Well, this is a funny thing. I don't have a great transition because it's so weird. Every week, we tell a story on this show. We usually alternate stories. They usually end up weird. I've dubbed this story the Bike Pump of Doom.
I think that's an accurate name for it. So Casey brought in a pump because I had a couple of dead basketballs. And so Casey
There's so many jokes I could make right now.
almost blew out, because of Casey, I almost blew out my Achilles tendon, and that's the tie-in with Kevin Durant.
Okay, good.
So here's the big setup. So my daughter's boyfriend is a huge Laker fan, talks a lot of smack, constantly texting me, comes up for the weekend from Santa Barbara, and so he's blah, 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 just always chat, about his basketball prowess. Now, I have not played probably in 10 years.
Since you scored on Klay Thompson.
Oh, that didn't count.
That
didn't
counted.
count. No, that
we
was
have
not
the video.
playing. No, we could
We
show
have the
that
proof.
again. But like in a real game, and the last time I had played in a real game, it was a random pickup game, whatever. I remember driving into the lane, jump stop, and then felt, boing, and that was my left leg. And I knew that the next explosive move I made was going to be my last for that leg.
Yes.
Because I could feel my Achilles tendon. It was ready to go.
Oh,
and so I just walked gingerly through the rest of that game and didn't
You
do
kept
a
playing?
heck of a... I was... the game
I
was
would've
almost
just-
over.
I
The game
would've
was
been
almost
done.
over. I was very close to peace out. But all right. So anyway, with that in mind, I have not played ever since. There's probably... It may be close to 10 years. So, but, this guy's talking a lot of stuff, and so it started out as, we'll just shoot around a little game of horse. So Casey brings in the pump. I get the basket.
Me, can you bring in the bike pump today? And I was like, what does he need this for?
Get the basketballs ready, and we're up, and in the neighborhood was shooting and all this, and my daughter Nikki actually held her own, very respectable in the game of horse.
Oh, okay.
There could have been,
All right.
had I known this long ago, there might have been a push to get a scholarship somewhere because she was
That would have
knocking.
been a good investment.
Oh my god!
Very good investment.
Oh my goodness, college is so expensive. Anyway, all right. So I'm winning in horse, which leads him to escalate. Now we got to play one-on-one.
And you got to sun him. You got to smack him
I
down.
gotta-
You
I
can't
have-
let him beat you in front of your daughter.
Exactly. I have to.
It got real.
I have to educate the young man.
You have to.
On the, all right. So anyway, we're playing. I'm scoring a little bit. He's scoring a little bit. Things are starting to ratchet up from a kind of a leisurely, hey, yeah, what's, to now there's a forearm and there's
some hard fouls.
There's some tomahawks going for block shots and things like that. And I'm like, so I start knocking down. I took it outside. I'm like, okay, this guy's too big and strong. So I hit a couple of jumpers from way downtown, bang, and Mike Breen. And so then now he's coming out to check me out there, and it was the same exact spot where Kevin Durant, right wing, 3-point line, and I'm looking to go, plant my right foot.
Oh, no.
And I feel it, and I'm just like, oh, no. My worst fear is Achilles tendon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's a year rehab.
Yeah.
And I just hobble off to the side. Strained Achilles
Did you at least
tendon.
get the lead before you hobbled
I was
off?
up. Oh, I was
good,
up.
Yeah, so you faked the injury.
And
then you
What?
ensured the victory.
so,
oh, my Achilles. I guess we have to stop now.
just to
It's me
show
in the
you,
lead.
no, I was up, but and would have finished him. But just to show you how great my daughter is, she realizes that I'm writhing in pain.
Yeah.
Gets me a bag of ice.
Yeah.
She comes back. I put the ice on. I get a makeshift wrap, tie it up, go back to playing horse.
Okay.
Horse.
All right. Yeah.
And take care of business in
Wow.
horse. But now, as a consequence, I can barely walk.
And I had to wheel him to this very set to
I
do
have been
this
hobbling
podcast.
for most of the week, and it's basically my regimen is ice and Advil and ice and Advil. And when I ask you to bring the bike pump in again, do not bring the pump.
I saw him the next day, and he goes, "This is your fault for bringing that pump." I was just like, "Whoa, okay."
If this happened, if I would have blown out my Achilles tendon because of you, you know what you would have to do?
I think I would have to rent a friend.
You would, because I would not be your friend
had no
anymore.
more friends.
You would have to rent a friend, and you knew where I was going. There just happens to be a site called rentafriend.com.
And this will be our weird news story of the week.
That's for sure.
I can't believe this is real.
I didn't think it was real either. We did a news story on ABC 7 News, and the irony is that the reporter did this piece in Las Vegas. Mm-hmm. And now the hook is you can
rent a lot of friends in Las Vegas.
You can rent a friend in Las Vegas for as low as $25 an hour.
Oh my God.
Now some people might rent multiple friends in Las Vegas.
No.
It is legal in Las Vegas to rent friends for other purposes, but that is not what this
We're talking about rentafriend.com.
Allegedly, that is not what this
Where
is.
you're renting, you're renting.
This is renting real friends, which we'll get to. But the premise of this is, let's say you're new in town. Mm-hmm. And you don't know anybody.
Nobody.
Okay? So what do?
You rent a friend.
You go to, for a mere $25 an hour.
An hour?
Or more. Yes.
Oh, I thought this was like a day rate.
No, it's $25 for the day?
Yeah.
That's well below minimum wage.
What kind of hanging out with people?
Kind of a slave driver are you? I'm glad I don't work for you. No, you have the subscription fees, right? You wrote those down?
I just wrote $29.95. I thought that was like unlimited friends and
that's for 1 month. Okay. And that gives you the opportunity to contact a potential friend.
And then you have to pay them per hour?
And then you pay them by the hour. Now, some friends are cheaper. Then you might get a good friend for $10, $15.
Okay.
Others are $25 and up.
Yeah.
Now, at rentafriend.com, they say they are not a dating site. It's like, it says on their website, many friends on rentafriend.com have unique talents and skills.
Like carpentry.
Yeah. Well, that would be one of them. Not necessarily the skill I was looking for, but someone may want to see a movie or go to a restaurant, but they don't have anybody to go with.
Or you just don't know like what's cool in your town, and maybe they can show you around a little bit.
This is a valuable service. Now,
it's ridiculous. It really is.
One thing that, and I don't know how real this is, because when we check the website, did you look at the site? Because
I pulled up the site, and there were people like in Livermore, Danville, like the places we live. They had friends for rent.
Now, we don't know how real they are. I mean, it could be fake profiles, but they listed 600,000 possible friends on their site. Does that seem? That seems like an outrageously high number.
Yeah, that seems pretty high. That seems high. You know, the thing about this for me is like, I spend 9 hours a day here with you, and then I go home with my family and my kids.
Yes.
And I have a lot of friends, all of whom I want nothing to do with.
Why is that?
I just got no time for anybody anymore.
No time for friends.
They're always calling me. I just, I hit reject call.
When your friends call you, you don't pick up the...
I love my friends, but I don't have time for anything anymore.
Well, you don't love them that much, clearly.
I do. I mean, if I'm driving, I might answer it. But yeah, I'm at the point now where I don't want to deal with people.
Yeah.
This is the complete antithesis of that.
Yeah, well, this is for people with different needs. Now, one of the possibilities here is, let's say, people who travel for business that are looking to find local friends to go to dinner with. Like when, I'm sure if you had let's say Raiders in Vegas, you're going to cover that game. And you say, honey, I'm renting a friend for the night.
I'm sure she'd really understand.
Renting a friend.
So you're in Vegas and you're renting a friend.
Guess what? You know what? When you come back to the Bay Area, you can rent an apartment.
Yes, and rent a moving truck.
and all your stuff's going to be on the lawn.
I will say this. When I covered baseball,
Yeah.
I traveled a lot.
Yes.
And when I would get to the cities, I wasn't on the team charter or the team, airplanes and hotels. I was on my own. So I ate dinner by myself a lot. And that sucks.
If you had...
It does suck. So if I had rentafriend.com...
If you could rent a friend in various cities, think of the investment that would have been. You'd have people from all over America whose calls that you do not accept.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I would decline all of them.
Did you want to pull up some of the...
Let's see some friends.
The personals.
Give me a couple friends.
Now, they claim on rentafriend.com that they are not a dating site. They make that abundantly clear.
If, though, mutually, is that an option? I don't know.
I don't. Well, then I'm not paying you $25 an hour or more.
Yeah.
But there's one guy I don't have his name in front of me,
Well, you
but
probably shouldn't say it anyways.
he described himself as a party in a box. There's a young lady who says, I'm a Leo with an upbeat and thoughtful personality. If you're looking to spend time with a huge nerd who thinks she's funny, and that's where I stopped printing. Who else have we
Fill
got?
in the blank.
Yeah.
I think that whenever I read these, they all sound like dating profiles.
Well, that's my point.
They all come off sounding like dating profiles.
And also on the website they ask for body type and ethnicity.
Oh, no.
So yeah, no, they do. So
Really?
if you have a type, you can find a friend that is just your type.
This is just bizarre.
Yeah.
You could find a friend to give you a better bike pump, so you don't hurt your Achilles.
So you don't hurt your Achilles.
Because it's clearly the bike pump's fault.
All right. You want to wrap it up?
Yeah, I think there's really nowhere to go.
Can we
from
rent
here.
a subscriber?
We could rent a subscriber. We need to rent subscribers. We need to rent sponsors.
Oh, definitely.
We need to rent your 5-star reviews. How many dollars an hour do we have to pay you to just click the button? It's right there. Just click it.
Just click it.
Just click the little subscribe button. If you're watching on YouTube, you can click the button. If you're on iTunes, subscribe and hit the 5-star thing and leave us a comment. It's a lot of work, but we love it. We're on Spotify, we're on SoundCloud, we're on Google Play.
We're on everything. And we've got a new studio with perfect acoustics. So every podcast that you listen to from here on out will be in fantastic stereo?
Sure, I have an idea.
What's that?
Let's not, you'll do it. I'm going to sit here. Do the best aloha ever in these sweet acoustics to end the show.
Longest or just
know.
most intense?
Wow us.
Okay.
I'm going to throw my paper.
Aloha!
That would have cost like $100 on Rent-A-Friend. Oh, yeah.
With authority!